So let me give you a background before I do my whoppers on this beautiful scenery here today. I'm going to give you a background on what it takes to live this kind of a life for all your life without waiting until your retirement age. And, you know, who does this and how can you do it? And I'm going to give you a kind of an overview on that, okay?
Are you trying to get a tan today, world traveler?
No, just some vitamin D.
Oh, okay, that's different. All right then.
Thought I'd give you guys a little bit of a view here. And I've always said it's not about the delayed life plan, and it's also not about 100% leisure and having a life of Riley. I don't ever want to make it sound like that's what I'm encouraging people to do. Being industrious is part of having a balanced life, and part of having a balanced life is having enough time to enjoy life, as opposed to delaying your life and then waiting for your quote-unquote retirement. If you look at like our life hasn't changed since our 20s. We say that a lot in our videos, and it's not just about going abroad or being abroad. I also don't want to make it sound like the way to have a balanced life is just to go abroad. It is something we did do. We did it 12 years ago. We spent 8 years in Ecuador, and a lot of it was our life in North America. We had different times in our lives, but regardless what we were doing, we were always enjoying our life while also being industrious at the same time. So what you've got is people on the extreme end, the salaried, the worker type, and a lot of people have pretty good salaries, nothing to sneeze at. If they're good salaries, there's nothing wrong with them. But even so, you don't really have control of your life. And I think that a lot of people are figuring that out, and they're jumping on the frugality train, and they're taking those good six-figure salaries and they're investing as much as they can, and they're planning the day when they can jump off of that treadmill. And that's great. That's fine. That's one way of doing it. And then you've got the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur is a little bit different because he doesn't have as many boundaries or constraints, and therefore he just becomes an alcoholic. Excuse me. Yes, in many cases he does become an alcoholic, but I meant that he becomes a workaholic. Entrepreneurism is just an excuse to be a workaholic. Many entrepreneurs build fortunes. Unfortunately, everything else in their life falls to the wayside. We won't go into details. Let's try to keep it upbeat. Regardless of where you are in life, I'm not saying one way is better than another. Wherever you're at in life, you know, if you've got a nice big salary and you can be frugal and save that salary, most of it, and put it in real estate or whatever investments, Bitcoin, whatever you want, you know, and you have a planned date, you know, it could be 5 years or what have you, where your investments throw off enough income to give you the life you want. Another way of doing it, there's other things that you can do. There are those that have just an average salary. Now there are those out there saying that you can do it on an average salary too. You can be frugal and you can save a lot of money, and that's true, you can. It's just going to take you longer. However, with these people, while there are people still doing that, and you might say, well, what are my options? There are other options. You don't actually have to, you know, wait 10 or 20 years. You can, but you know, if you're somebody like me that's unhappy being on the treadmill, I was unhappy. I got a couple of jobs out of high school, and I realized with those jobs that it wasn't for me, and so I became an entrepreneur and a workaholic, and so I did all of the things I talk about. And so I chucked it all and decided that having a balanced life is really the smartest thing to do and the most wisdom. And it's actually consistent with what ancient scriptures teach us. And my motivation actually came from the ancient scriptures after I had a spiritual awakening. Having said that, if you are on the smaller salary side of things, where it's going to take you the 10 or 20 years, there's hope. There's what we call Microenterprise, which we occasionally talk about. We have talked about in some of our videos. Without going into detail, it's a video all of its own, and I have made several of those videos on Microenterprise. Nowadays they call it side hustle. Unfortunately, the side hustle terminology, I don't accept side hustle terminology. Here's why. Side hustle is something that people on the treadmill add to their treadmill. You see what I'm saying? See, you're already on a treadmill and you add more treadmill to your life. This is just part of the delayed gratification plan. Now, before you go jumping all over me on this, I'm not saying that one shouldn't make sacrifices in life. When you're starting out, you do need to make sacrifices to get to a spot where you need to be. It's okay to do a double take, put in extra effort. You know, when it's time to build your house, you build your house. Make hay while the sun shines. Get busy while you have an opportunity to do so. On the other hand, I'm talking about not living a life of imbalance. If you run an imbalance in your life for too long because you've got this number, this figure you're trying to achieve, what happens is that other things in your life get destroyed. Now, you know, our minds and our bodies, they can withstand quite a bit of pressure, but if we do it for too long and we cross into the twilight zone, into the barrier, where we cause too much damage, then it's a lot harder, if not impossible, to bounce back from that damage. And you know, people's health is destroyed, people's lives, people's relationships are destroyed, you name it. So no, I don't use the term side hustle, because that's just another Lego or another block you're adding to your delayed gratification. So what we call it is microenterprise. The reason we call it microenterprise, it's not just a label, it's exactly what it is. It's intentionally built on a micro size. So we keep it small intentionally because it's designed to give us life. So the microenterprise doesn't take away life like the side hustle does. You've heard the saying, the true cost of a thing is how much life you're willing to give for it. And what that means is that how much of your life are you giving for the thing that you are attempting to attain. And so I'm saying that if we keep it on a level of balance, you know, and I've through the years I've studied people like and was inspired by people like the Nearings, Scott and Helen Nearing, and he first wrote Living the Good Life decades ago, and he had his micro enterprise was micro farming, homestead farming, micro farming. This wasn't the mechanized big industrial farm. This wasn't throwing around big money, huge machinery or anything like that people do nowadays. It was just a micro enterprise. You see what I'm saying? The micro enterprise. It was they were very inspirational to me because his idea was to do what he called 4 hours a day of to cover for your necessaries. And so I was inspired by that, and I said, 4 hours a day, that changes things. Like if you have a full-time job that you detest, and whatever that may be, if you were to cut that back to, say, 4 hours a day, or even 3 hours a day, or even 2 hours a day, whatever you can pencil out on your ledger, how would you feel about it then? I recommend taking a sabbatical. I took a couple of years sabbatical when I was in my early 30s. And what that does is it gives you a clean break where I was tired of the activities I was doing. And what happens is if you just take your job that you detest and you scale it back to 4 hours from 8 or 10 or 12 hours, whatever it is, it doesn't give you the clean break that you need to refresh yourself so that you can be renewed, and that's why it's called a sabbatical. And so I recommend taking a sabbatical. If it doesn't have to be that long, whatever you can muster, 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever you can muster, so that you can come back fresh. Maybe your employer won't cut your hours, so you can take the skills that you have and you can turn it into a micro enterprise. And so that's another slant that you can do. You can take the skills that you have that you're selling to your employer, you're selling them by the hour or salary, and you can turn around and go get your own clients. And even if you only get 2 to 4 hours a day worth of clients, why, bingo, you just hit the nail on the head. And you arrange your life in such a way, you learn the skills of frugality and minimalism. I go for the practical minimalism. In other words, I only use minimalism on an as-needed basis in order to achieve whatever goal I'm attempting to achieve at the moment. So I'm not a die-hard minimalist. So there you go. I just gave you a kind of a nice overview. So I gave you that introduction, a little bit long, but I wanted to give a background. All right, so I gave you that overview so that you can understand that when I come out here and make videos, and I'm sitting here showing you this beautiful view, or I'm at the beach, or I'm walking in this country or that country, I'm not doing it with the idea that only those that have achieved a certain financial structure are able to do it. Anybody can do this. Especially this day and age, it's even easier. We were doing it before there was an internet, before there was a YouTube, before there was any remote work. What remote work? There was no remote work. We still did it, and it was because we planned our life. We were inspired by different actors in life. One of them, again, was the Helen and Scott Nearing. There were a couple others. Your Money or Your Life was another one. She makes a good argument in her book about what a thing really costs. Unfortunately, some of these other people, they are all about saving up enough money to reach a certain figure and then live off of money. I don't favor that because it usually means, in a lot of cases, but not all cases, it means relying on things you can't control, like the stock market. And as you can see, I know that people are hopeful that since the stock market has turned around and is going back up, that we're going to go to all-time highs and just keep going up. But there's a really high probability that that won't happen. I'm not saying it won't. I'm not crystal balling this thing, but there's a high probability that that won't happen. If you look at the stock market back from 2000 to 2015, it pretty much just went sideways and did nothing. And you've got people, you see them on the internet, they've got their stories that they tell you that they were planning on this retirement and blah, 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 and they retired right at the top of the market at 2000, and then it just went down and never hit, and never for 15 years, never hit that, where the point where they got in, it never went beyond that for 15 years. So they had to do what? Well, they have a micro enterprise now, which is pretty amazing, and so they sit there and tell their life story on the internet, and they're pretty successful with with their microenterprise. Now, another thing that I do differently than some of these other people is that I don't promote places. And the reason I don't promote places, a lot of our longtime viewers know that we've got some huge challenges with the live abroad thing, because most of these places are really tiny, and you know, you got millions of people retiring, and just in North America, if you add Europe and Australia and all those, you know, and you globally promote, which there are hucksters out there. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to say that. I meant Retire Abroad Media, that their sole purpose in life is to create these bubbles so they can profit off the real estate while destroying the locals' lives. And you see now, we've been saying this for the whole 12 years. We were some of the first people that were saying this 10 to 12 years ago, but now you see videos of people talking about gentrification, and you didn't see those videos back then, but we were still talking about it anyway. So I don't promote a place, because I think that it isn't necessary to play follow the leader. I call it follow the leader, and people just go where everybody else goes. And I think that you know, you can actually, it is possible to pretty much go wherever you want, you know, without really. Even in North America, you can go wherever you want. You don't have to go. Nowadays, there's people making blogs and videos about cities in America even. So you don't have to go, you know, 10 cheapest cities in America. And you don't have to go to that list. You can just make your own list. And I've got a membership area where I help people see through all these kinds of things and do these things and achieve the things that they want to achieve. Having said that, I've got some good news for you. It's one of my whoppers. Remember a few videos back I was talking about Argentina and how the government was lining up with China, and that how their currency is pretty much disintegrated, and it has caused a lot of mayhem to the locals, and basically impoverished and destroyed the lives of people that relied and trusted in. Basically, simple-minded people are everywhere, not just in Argentina, and they pretty much trust in the imaginations and machinations of governments, which is fiat money, which the Bible calls uneven weights and measures, which God hates. God hates uneven weights and measures because they are fraudulent. And they're dishonest, and that's what fiat paper money is. And so people that trust in these things eventually, sooner or later, see their wealth crumble. And so I was talking about that, and I was saying how at the same time they were encouraging people to buy Chinese yuan of all, you know, the communist coin over there, the Chinese yuan. China is the only country in the world quite yet to actually institute their communist software coin, spy coin, it's a control coin. They're the only ones so far, although there's a whole lot of talk globally of doing this, and although there's also a lot of pushback too. So, but this whopper is about Argentina, and I just wanted to point out how things can just flip on a dime just in an instant. It's like just a few videos back I was talking about this, and now we see a right-wing candidate recently won the election in Argentina, and apparently he's pro-Bitcoin. This is a total turnaround from the scenario that I was discussing in the previous videos, because being pro-Bitcoin is huge. You know, going from the China communist control coin to pro-Bitcoin, that's like two extremes of opposite ends, you know, extremes of opposite ends. So anyhow, thank you for staying with me. Thank you for coming to my channel. Thank you for watching the video. Leave us a comment below, and have a wonderful day.